we try and hold ourselves to the same level of compliance as what would be considered PCI compliant, or for transactional financial exchange data. We don't necessarily shoot to have those certifications, but we try to operate at that level. And we have some clients that are financial institutions that keep us on our toes and really help us to identify proactively threats that might be on the network. There's a handful of different tools that we use that are more industry level security threat awareness tools, as well as regular auditing of our systems. And I think a lot of that has kind of helped us to migrate many of our hosted solutions to third-party cloud like Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, where there's more redundancy and a bit more vested interest in as well as a wealth of expertise in those platforms in risk mitigation for security. So there's a couple of different approaches that we have to kind of blend together there, but it's an ongoing battle, and it is a real consideration, especially in the public purview. We see on ad networks from time to time that those can get hacked, and I think your chain is only as good as your weakest link, so to speak. So just making sure that all of those links are checked on an ongoing basis is really critical.
And how about you,
I think
Ken?
there's a question of physical security as well. Certainly the digital security is super important, but if you're out in public, again at a sports venue, on a concourse in a stadium, at a drive-through, in a restaurant, at a bus stop, these are extremely expensive pieces of equipment that are just out there, and you can't have a security guard there. But what you can do is protect it with materials, different kinds of perhaps plexiglass and enclosures that are impervious to someone who is only casually trying to vandalize it, as opposed to professionally vandalize it. You can utilize cameras. You can utilize bollards or pillars to prevent cars from hitting it or people from getting physically too close. And you try to hang these types of screens where they're visible not just to the person who's standing in front of it. So if someone has bad intention, the chances of him or her being alone or not being seen are low. So you can't make everything rock-proof, bulletproof, brick-proof, but you can make it hard for people with bad intent to succeed. And if they do succeed, perhaps you might have nice pictures to share with the authorities.
And Rich, is there anything NEC or other manufacturers do or can do to prevent some of these issues, whether it's a security breach or physical breach?
Well, it's an easy statement: commercial. You buy a product that's designed for commercial grade applications. I mean, it's really that simple. You don't go and buy the cheapest Android player that's out on the internet that you can buy for $99 that it swears it can run your digital signage for you. It can, but your data is not secure. People can hack it all the time. Going with the right tool for the right job. It really comes down to it, right? And so it's making sure that you're buying, if you're doing, I use this term a lot with everybody. If you're going to buy something like this, you're buying a platform. You're buying into a platform. You're not buying a product. And that's part of the problem, is most people, they just think, I'm just going to buy a display. A display is a display. I'll go buy a TV at the local retailer. I'll slap on a laptop. I'll download this free piece of software I found on the internet, and I'll put my signage. And it's protected. It's not. And once it goes on, once it has any possibility of being connected to, either because it's on your network or there's a Wi-Fi receiver on a computer, it can be hacked. So having a platform that's secure. If you're out in public space, having a product that's designed for the environment. If it's out in the elements, you buy a product that's designed to be in the elements. Either it's because it's in an enclosure or it's because it's a sealed display. You've got a product that if you're running this thing 24/7, and you got to worry about heat, and you got to worry about things like you buy a product that's designed for it. This is one of the biggest problems that I see, and I see a lot of this in the integration space, is they'll go to a customer and say, well, it's going to cost you $2,000, and the customer says, well, I can buy something $1,500. Okay, I'll get you something for $1,500. When you start cutting corners, you start opening people up to having their screen hacked, and all of a sudden having profanity or things on there you don't want on there. You open up for data breaches. You open up for product being damaged, having to be constantly replaced. So it all comes down to buying a platform and buying commercial-grade equipment. That's going to be really crucial for your projects.
If I could just add one quick thing, I know we're short on time. One thing you can look for if you're concerned about that type of security is ensure that your media players, your endpoint devices, are pull, not push. That will give you a certain level of security against some types of hacks and attacks. I know that our media players, of course, are all pull, and they only talk to one and only one URL in the world with authentication. So you can't just plug in a USB key into the back of a player and start, running porn or something bad on the screen. It just won't work. And there's no shortcuts to security, and there's a cost to doing it that way, but it's the right way.
Yeah, and I mean, we even put on our displays, and this is where it becomes really important on commercial, you can lock out video inputs. So to give you a really easy, quick story of something that I saw once, we actually had a client who did 2 test stores, one with us, one with one of our competitors, and it was for restaurants. And we popped into the competitor's restaurant to see how the boards looked, and the employees were playing Xbox on the digital menu boards. So they found out that they can bring their Xbox in, plug in the HDMI, and they were playing Xbox video gaming on a digital menu boards an hour before closing time in their restaurant. You walked into our restaurant, the restaurant that we had, you could plug anything you want. It didn't matter. Nothing's going to come. We will not transfer a signal. Also, if you look in our system, when we talk about security, is you can actually password protect the displays. So you can prevent, if someone steals them, for example, they can't plug anything in. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do that's really important when you're looking at physical security on top of data security.